Everything we desire is already within us. You have the power and the energy to create the life you desire in you.
You were the first man that I ever loved. God sent me to you, a gift from above. See, there's nothing like a father's love. I'm so thankful to the stars above. God gave me to you and you to me. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have this family. You raised me up and taught me the ways that I should go. And even though you're gone, you promised to never let go. Said you'll always be the best man that I know. No matter how far that I go, no matter how old that I grow, you know you'll always be my hero, the best man that I know. No matter how far that I go, no matter how old that I grow, you know you'll always be my hero. You've always been my hero. You've always been my hero. You've always been you'll always be my number one. You'll always be. You always knew that I would do great things. You always gave your last, you cared and you covered me. Though the days and years may roll, I'll never let you go. I'll miss you and wish you could be holding me. Said you'll always be the best man that I know. No matter how far that I go, no matter how old that I grow, you know you'll always be my hero, the best man that I know. No matter how far that I go, no matter how old that I grow, you know you'll always be my hero. You've always been 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 my number one.
Express your greatness, your amazing self and soul. You're amazing.
I love you, Daddy. Said you'll always be the best man that I know. No matter how far that I go, no matter how old that I grow, you'll know you'll always be my hero, the best man that I know. No matter how far that I go, no matter how old that you'll know you'll always be my hero. My hero. Be my hero.
You can fly like an eagle, enjoy the high reaches, and become the eagle you were birthed to be. I believe you can fly.
I have some things to share with you that I've never shared before publicly with anybody.
Carlton, you die for what you believe.
Jesus is the Savior of the world, the whole world, all men.
He's affecting the world. The world. He's a pastor that thinks world. And that's what God wants.
He did not come into the world to condemn the world, but that through him the world might be saved. If he didn't condemn, why do we? That's all I'm saying.
Brother, you ain't just here to have a little meeting. God's called this thing. God said, all right, to walk in those footprints that are already there. He creates some new ones.
D.E. Paulk is one of my spiritual sons. He's my first expansion consciousness son.
When Bishop Pearson transitioned, a lot is on my shoulders now. And I don't perceive myself as the successor of Carlton Pearson. I perceive it as a succession. But there have to be some voices who can speak and know what he taught and get it and be able to answer the questions. I know that he prepared me for this moment. Well, good evening, everyone. Come on in the house. Come on in the room today. It's evening, as Bishop CDP would say. Get somewhere and sit down. Get yourself somewhere and sit right on down. Welcome to Bishop Carlton D. Pearson's The Gospel of Inclusion. I'm your host, Bishop D.E. Paulk. It's so good to have you tonight. Valentine's Day is upon us. We've got some exciting guests tonight. I perceive, I don't have a lot of beliefs. I perceive that we are spirits capable of having beliefs. However, I do perceive that there is some truth to the idea that your vibe attracts your tribe. What does that mean? We, as Esther Hicks would remind us, we are vibrational creatures in a vibrational universe. And so we attract people that are similar in thought, similar in consciousness. And then we repel people who are not on that same vibratory level. And so there's a little law of magnetism that works. That could not hold more true to the two guests that we have tonight. Brother Henry Harris, Reverend Reggie Rogers. I've only known them a short time, but I think I've known them in other lifetimes. We were destined to meet each other. Our vibrations definitely resonate. It did not take long for me to just really have a deep, abiding respect and love for our two authors that are on tonight. All right, have you ordered your Valentine's Day gifts and presents for your other person, your person of love, your spouse, your partner, your love object, your boo, whatsoever you call it? Don't wait till the last minute and then say it'll be here Saturday, it'll be here Sunday. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get there yet. That might not work on Valentine's Day. It works on other moments, but we love you guys. We're so glad you're here tonight. We haven't been on every Tuesday this year, and specifically because I'm in my doctoral work, which is very taxing right now. I think I've just read. My eyes are kind of dizzy with reading today. When Brandy came in from about a 12-hour workday, and I was still just reading, trying to post my discussions. But if you don't catch us here on Tuesday night, if we're not on every week, which we probably won't be, you can catch us on Wednesday night. If you want a deeper dive into the gospel of inclusion, a lot of people connect with us and say, how can I get more information? Go to mytruesanctuary.com and you can connect with us on Wednesday nights for as we literally unpack Carlton Pearson's The Gospel of Inclusion. So looking forward to seeing you guys then. All right, I did want to give a little shout out to Josh Johnson. I usually drink with my right hand, but I wanted to hold it. So if I hold it this way, look, you can't see the beauty. I can see it, but I want everyone else to see it. So I've got to go southpaw for you guys to see the beauty of my inclusionist teacup. Well, thank you, Josh Johnson. And I consider all the shirts, the hoodies, the teacups, the jackets. He's furnished Spirit and Truth, our conferences, our new work in, by the way, UK, if you're watching tonight, from Liverpool, our friends at Spirit and Truth Sanctuary Liverpool. We love you guys. So glad and happy about the opening of the spiritual community there. And very soon, I think in March, we will open a free church in Recife, Brazil with Reverend Luis Melancia. So happy seeing this idea of inclusion just finding critical mass, not just in America, but globally. So very, very grateful for that. All right, let's give some shouts out to some peoples who are on tonight. Eli, hey, Jellybean Jeffries, good to have you tonight. Cat Bell, we were just talking about you. Were your ears burning? Emma Gosier, hey, Miss Emma. Look at there. I was talking at you, Luis. Look here. Maybe Josh Johnson will send you an inclusionist teacup all the way to Recife, Brazil. Good to have you, Luis. Let's see. Shuja, Clarence Minifield. Good evening to all. Good to have you tonight. Matt Parvin. First time in here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You're here at the right time. Glad to have you, Matt. Mike Williams from Tulsa, Oklahoma, where God lives and loves. The only God-ordained state in the nation. By the way, congrats to Mike Williams, whose quarterback won. I don't think Philadelphia is not his team, but Jalen Hurts is his quarterback. He played at Oklahoma after he transferred from Alabama. So congrats on your quarterback winning. How about that, Mike? Let's do it that way. Let's see. Doreen Panton. Hey, Miss Doreen. Good evening. Jared Johnson. That's an interesting name. We see you guys a lot. Let's see. Springfield, Missouri in the house. Good to have you, Miss Cat. Tanga Predeman. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. From Greetings from California. Sending our prayers to you if you're anywhere near LA. Gingerbread. What's up, Gingerbread? Good to have you. South Carolina in the house, the Palmetto State. Pastor Gloria Harris. Welcome, welcome, welcome. 75 years young in the house. DSD Capricorn 88. Good evening, Bishop. First Lady. Brandy. Brandy, you're a fine girl. What a good wife you'd be. Anybody remember that old Looking Glass song? How about let's go a little bit further. I think this is OJ's. I really miss you, Brandy. When Brandy and I broke up, quick story. Is this okay for me to tell? We broke up because I was very religious. I was early 20s, and I said, Brandy, I just need some time. I need to fast and pray and seek the face of God. So I broke up with Brandy. I was driving away from her house. True story. True story. Turn on my radio, and the OJ song comes on. I really miss you, Brandy. I was like, God, are you trying to tell me something? Do I need to graduate from my religion? All right, I found a wife, and I have obtained favor with God. Let's see. Yep, from Birmingham, welcome in the house. Yep, Capricorn. Anna Finney Denham. Look at Miss Finney Denham. Hello, Inclusion family. Megan Lynch, thanks for my CD. Yeah, good evening. Cynthia Vanderpool, welcome, welcome, welcome. Good to see that name again. Phil Blackmore, look at all these people from Tulsa. I need to come back to Tulsa, see all my people. Miss Glenna McKenzie, faithful soul, thank you for being here. Let's see, Solomon Buckley from Kansas City. Yeah, look at all these Missouri people to that. You're in.
And looky here.
What, are you kidding? Jamie Charles J. Baker, my brother from another mother, is on tonight. I'm so glad you're here, Jay Baker. If you will send Brandy any information that you'd like for us to put on the platform, I certainly want to promote what Jay is doing virtually, his social media, his thoughtful conversations. Jay is certainly navigating some bridge work right now in the architecture of inclusivity. What does that mean? Bridge work means, as Jay would say, learning to argue well. Of course, we as inclusively minded people would find disparate entry points with people of evangelical construct, especially biblical inerrantist, historicist. We don't have all that much in common, but we do have a shared and common humanity. We can argue well. We can disagree without being disagreeable. We can respect each other's divinity. And so thank you, Jay, for the work that you're doing. I know that's difficult waters to manage at times, especially when people can be really harsh and really divisive. So thank you for the work that you're doing. Jay said, amen, amen, brother. Jay, we ought to have you on one night soon on the Carlton Pearson show. And we'll talk theology and Paul's writings and Paul Tillich, and we'll talk about all the Pauls, but we'll also share some stories about you and I living together when we were just youngsters and coming into the understandings of grace and inclusivity. All that was certainly a joy. All right, let's see. Okay, I think of those. Oh, John Thomas from Tulsa. Look at all my Tulsa people in the house. All right, is that the last of the shouts out?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to jump in pretty quickly tonight because I want you guys to be able to have plenty of time with both Brother Henry Harris and with Reverend C. Reggie Rogers. Welcome again, once again, to Bishop Carlton D. Pearson's The Gospel of Inclusion. We're glad you're here tonight. It is Valentine's Day week. I do think that it's interesting. Y'all know Carlton always went into some kind of sexual story about theology, or we called them his sperm and sermons. But isn't it interesting that Valentine's Day it's VD? Yikes. Yeah, so about it, stay away from VD on Valentine's Day. What you mean, Reverend? Yeah, just be cautious, be respectful, be thoughtful about your your love experiences. Amen, somebody. All right, we're going to talk tonight with two different guests, and we'll talk to them individually. They've both written amazing books that I think will be helpful to you. Would love for you to purchase the books and patronize their ministries. They are inclusive in their expression, so we always want to support our tribe. It's good to invest in our tribe. Then at the end, we'll come back on, and maybe we'll have a conversation with all three of us tonight. All right, without any further ado, welcome to the show, my brother, Henry Harris from the Henry Harris and You show. Welcome, Brother Henry. Talk to us, greet us tonight.
Bishop Paulk, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to be here. I don't take it lightly.
You are social media royalty, that's for sure. Brother Henry Harris has interviewed, if I started naming everyone from Al Sharpton to Maya Angelou to so many, he has been in the presence of greatness and has done some amazing work virtually, bringing people to the table from all different vantage points and perspectives. And so we certainly appreciate the work that you're doing, Brother Henry. But before we jump into the book, I have to know about the shirt. Ooh, look at the shirt. Tell us about that red shirt. Is that your Valentine's Day shirt?
Actually, I visited Michael Jackson's, and Michael Jackson gave me this shirt after I did the moonwalk for him.
You're a liar. You're a liar. You tell the story. You will find out about Brother. When I first met Brother Henry Harris, he would be on our platform, and Brady and I we thought that he was like catfishing us or gaslight. He would say something, and Brady said, "There's a guy named Henry Harris who says that," and I said, "Brandy, he's messing with us." So you will find out about Brother Henry Harris that he is a comedian, and I love that about him. That's what makes him my tribe. He is in the comedic lineage of Carlton D. Demetrius Pearson. What's it feel like, Brother Henry, to be an author? We're excited. If you can see kind of over Brother Henry's ear, he has a dead end sign there. That's the name of his new work. And so tell us what it's like being an author.
Well, as I told you previously before the interview started, is that I never planned on being an author. I didn't wake up one day and say, "Oh, I want to be an author." I always had a desire, Dr. Pope, to express myself in a variety of ways. Many people who have followed me, you know that I do public speaking. I'm a pianist as well. I sing, and I've done that since I was a child. I was raised in church, so it's always been a part of me, not just me, but even my older brothers. But if you were to ask me years ago that, "Oh, one day you're going to be an author," I never thought that. Even as far back as being in school, my former teachers would tell you that I was kind of like in isolation. I always stayed to myself. I always read books. I love to write, very creative in thought. So I guess in a sense, it doesn't surprise me that that I'm on my third project now. So I hope I answered your question.
You did. Yeah, that kind of led into the idea of the inspiration for the book. And so let's segue into that. I know that you didn't plan to write it, but what was the impetus? What was the inspiration for this particular book?
Well, when you think about a dead end, I mean, in a logical, practical sense, you can't go through it. You can't go around it. You can't go under it. What do you have to do? You have to face it. How is this applicable to our lives as individuals? Sometimes we face dead end experiences, and we feel like that we can't move. But oftentimes, our dead end crisis leaves us with two options. Number one, I can stay stuck in this situation, or number two, I can maneuver through life challenges. So it's not as much as when will these experiences come as it is how do we navigate through that. And most certainly I'm not an expert on relational things, but I do believe that we all have a story to tell as it relates to our journey. And I think that's what Dead End teaches, is that you can rise above the limitations and the restrictions that life may bring.
I love that. And seeing seeing the dead end as what it is, a road sign. How do we process the dead end with relationships? When you were talking, Brother Henry, I was thinking of the different biblical approaches to the ending of relationships. The Apostle Paul, I don't know that we want to take relationship advice from him. A lot of things we want to take advice from, but probably not relationship advice from the Apostle Paul. His advice was never get married unless you're burning with lust. That's the only reason you should get married. But Paul says to some of his constituency, if you're married to someone who's doesn't believe like you, let them go. Don't let the door hit them on the way out. But, Peter says, the Apostle Peter says, I think by your good conduct, the word there is chaste, by your chaste conduct, you can win them over to believe like you. And so there are different, perspectives about relationships. We're thankful that we have somebody on with us tonight who is willing to share his life experience and be vulnerable, to talk through the pain, to talk through the transitions. How many of you are watching tonight who have experienced a dead end and the depression that comes with that, the end of finality, you're feeling like your hopes have been dashed? What's after that dead end? So talk to us, Brother Henry. I know there's some diversity of the way relationships are expressed. We know in the scriptures we have different uses of the word love. You have agape, you have phileo, you have more of a family type love. And so one of the ideas of approaching relationships is that, are they all limited to romantic relationships? And what are the different relationships you address in the book?
I'm so glad you mentioned that, Dr. Paulk, because I had a lady that messaged me the other day, and she said, Henry, I would love to get your book, but I'm going to be honest with you. I don't want to get married. I have no desire for any type of relationship. And I'm sitting over here puzzled that she's saying this. And I said, is there something that I'm not saying about this book? And then I thought about it, and she mentioned it to me too. She said, well, your book says dead end, navigating through relationships. So it dawned on me that when she saw that word relationships, as you said, she limited to romantic relationship. And I just wanted to make some clarification that yes, it does address romantic relationships, but relationships comes in many dynamics. You have friendship relationship, business relationships with people. Some people need to know how to navigate through a divorce, a breakup, a heartbreak. So it depends on, you can insert whatever your dead end crisis is right there. So I would say that's where that would come from. Whatever relationship issues that you may have. Again, I'm not an expert at this. I'm just sharing my story, which I believe will help so many people if you find yourself at a dead end challenge in your life.
I love that, and I love the diverse approach to that, Brother Henry. I'll give you a little biblical comedy if everybody, you can handle it, or you wouldn't be on the platform tonight. But there is a difference between being lonely and in being alone. You can be alone and not necessarily be lonely. And as Brother Henry was saying, of course, many of us, the normative approach is we desire romantic relationship with someone, but we can also have communal relationship. You can have business. You can have a relationship with somebody that you have similar purpose with. You're architecting something together. In the Genesis narrative, I love this. There's two different creation accounts. One is considered the priestly account. One is the Yahwist. But in the Yahwist account, Adam is created without Eve. So that's the second account comes back and says God created Adam and then took Eve out of Adam. And so but why? Because Adam was alone, and it was God thought that it wasn't good. He thought that the animals would be companions, but that didn't work out. And so God said, yeah, we need to create a mate for Adam. Now this is, I lean toward the priestly account that he created them, not him. So just know where I stand with that. However, God creates this woman, and then the woman leads Adam into eating of the tree of the knowledge, which of course becomes a subjugation of women biblically. But God comes to Adam and says, why have you done this? Why have you eaten of the tree I told you not to eat of? And Adam goes, well, I mean, if you want to keep it real, God, I was doing fine by myself. You're the one who added this woman to me. And so really it's her fault and it's kind of your fault for doing this. And so we automatically kind of get into to the blame game. So just know that as Brother Henry is reminding us tonight, that being alone doesn't necessarily mean lonely. And even ending the dead ends of our relationships doesn't mean that you won't love again, or that the heart cannot open again, or that there's not another path for you in purposeful, meaningful relationships in your life. All right, Brother Henry, I'm gonna set you up with this one. So you and I've talked some about dead ends, kind of gravestones, not necessarily being the end of our lives, but kind of stepping stones to other possibilities. Talk to us about that.
I think life is a journey, not necessarily a destination. Actually, that's something that I wrote in chapter 1. In essence, what that's pretty much talking about is helping you to see the beauty in the situations. It's not being fully realistic, but it is realistic in some aspect. I mean, I understand. I'm not saying, trying to minimize someone's trauma or pain or experience, but I think at the same time, we can look at that and say, if I came through this challenge, or if I went through this divorce, or that friend walked away, I think we can look at the beauty side of it and say, I think I'll be able to navigate and come through that as well. I like to use the analogy of an ocean. And I've been to a couple of them in my lifetime. Would love to go to another one here soon. Just don't know where. I think about, if you can visualize those that are watching tonight, standing on the seashore of an ocean, you're so taken away. It's almost like breathtaking by the beauty that's in front of you, and the water that's running up on your feet, and the cool breeze, the wind. It's almost like you're in a whole different world. Now, no one is standing there at the seashore of the ocean and is saying, I wonder what it's like on the other side. Neither are they standing there saying, I wonder where is the ending point from where I'm standing at. Nobody's thinking that because of the vastness of the ocean. And secondly, you're not thinking that because you're too taken away by the moment. So what does that mean? That just simply means that regardless of what dead end crisis you may be experiencing, this teaches us to be present in the moment, because I think being present is more important. And when you find yourself in situations where you feel like you can't be present, maybe we just need to change our view of things, change our mentality, or in the terms of a GPS system, we need to learn how to reroute. I talked about the two options earlier: stay stuck or you can move. But if you think about it in a logical sense as well, if you come to a dead end sign, the lady's going to say rerouting. In other words, it's going to take you another direction. But even in going in another direction, it has to be part of your participation in that. It's not going to just effortlessly happen. So that's why I feel about that. Life is a journey. Just enjoy it. I wrote another chapter in the book that says, sometimes things happen for a reason. I mean, it's good to start a business. It's good to write books. It's good to get married. It's good to start a relationship. But you also have to realize that in the event that it doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world. This is part of my journey. I've been through 2 divorces myself, been in several failed relationships, and it's not all their fault. I had a part to play in that as well. But I'm not defined by those experiences, and neither are you. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, no matter what dead end experiences you may be going through, you're not defined by how many failed marriages you have, how many failed relationships you have. You are defined that you got up. And I think lastly, I would like to add, when a baby is growing up, and the baby, my daughter did this, Dr. Paulk, she will walk around, and then she will all of a sudden she'll fall. Then she'll get up, then she'll fall. What am I trying to say? Your victories are not in when you fall. Your victories is when you rise above the dead end challenges, and you got up, and that's what makes you victorious.
Wow. Let the church say amen. That was good. A lot of times people may perceive that in the Christian or religious world that there's less divorce, and the percentages are almost identical for those who are churchgoers and those who are not. It's about 51% of marriages end in divorce, and so this is applicable to you if you're a churchgoer, if you're not. How do we start over again? One of the things that Brother Henry really stresses, and I had to can you pull up that graphic again, Brandon? I wanted to be proud that Brother Henry asked me to write. Look who wrote the foreword for this book. Just look at that. Look who wrote the foreword. Look, let me tell you something. Just buy the book to read the foreword. I promise you it'll bless you. It is an amazing work. It's very vulnerable. It's very candid and translucent. But one of the things that is addressed is not bringing past hurt into a present relationship. Doesn't mean that it's not saying get over it, but it is just saying be aware that your new spouse, your new partner, your new boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is, they're not the person that you dated or were married to. And so to be aware, not to project onto the new relationship the pain from the past one. It doesn't mean that you don't still have the pain. I think when you go through a divorce or the loss of a significant relationship, you never really completely heal from it. The scar is always there, but we can be aware not to bring that baggage of projecting onto to our new relationship, the hurt of the past relationship. All right, Brother Henry, I'm going to ask you one more question, and then if you have any questions for Brother Henry Harris, please post them tonight. He would certainly be glad to answer those questions, or for us to admit, I don't know. That's crazy. I never heard that question before. But we definitely will talk about it.
Make sure he talks everyone through how to purchase the book as well.
Okay, let's do this last question, Brother Henry, and then we want you to talk us through how to purchase the book, and then maybe see if we'll take any questions from the audience. Okay, last question. If you had to give us kind of an overall theme or central message of the book, what would that be?
I would say that it's not your dead end experiences is not the end of the world. That I think it's important that we walk into what I would call this new identity, and I like to call it a new way of being. And it changes your mentality. It changes the way you think. It changes your perspective of the world, and it changes your perspective of yourself. You'll start to view yourself in a different light, and that doesn't mean that you're not going to face challenges in your life. You're going to face challenges in your life, but as I said earlier, it's a matter of how do we navigate through that. So I think the book is, as one of my friends said, Derek Day, it's almost like sitting down at the table with a friend with a cup of coffee. Like, oh, you're going through this, you're going through that. It's someone to help you. And also I want to say, I'm not talking about some that I heard. I'm talking about some that I know. So I'm not the author that's like, oh, let me talk about divorce. Let me talk about painful friendships. No, I've actually walked down. It was painful. I had to walk down that road. So I think the greatest story that you can ever tell is that which you have experienced.
Yeah. I heard a spiritual teacher say one time, Brother Henry, that if you've never had a mentor, if you've never had a teacher, a guru, a guide, that, and this is a little bit of a negative statement, but we can glean some positivity from it. He said that pain is the only teacher that you need. Mm-hmm. But if we deny the pain, do we really learn from it? So I'm very grateful that you're willing to share from your pain. I think speaking from places of pain is something that heals other people. I think it brings healing to us when we speak from our pain. And I think we allow other people to heal from the vulnerability of sharing from our pain. And so if there are people watching tonight, you're in pain, you've had some dead ends, begin the process of healing through the vulnerability of this book, and listening to lived experience. This isn't just book knowledge. This is lived experience that Brother Henry Harris is sharing with us. All right, talk to us about how to purchase the book, Brother Henry.
We've had several people from Australia, Ireland, even here in the United States, Dallas, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Maine, Oregon. Several people has been pre-ordering the book, and I would just like to encourage those that are watching to order the book. I do realize that this may not be for everyone, but I think it is for someone, and I would say that I think the book will be very beneficial to you. So briefly, I would just like to encourage you to order the book. Right now, we're doing pre-orders through these payment methods, and that is PayPal at Henry Harris 100, Cash App $ Henry Harris 2025, and also Venmo at Henry Harris 100. Paperbacks are 15, hardcover copies are 17. If you do follow this method and you do send something, I will need you to email us at contact@henryharris@yahoo.com, because if you just send the money, I'm not going to know who it came from or who sent it. So definitely, if you do order a book tonight, make sure you send us an email. That way we can documentate that and get that over to you.
It is imperative, my peoples, tonight that we support each other. You've heard the saying that about supporting Black businesses, supporting local businesses, supporting, some people say, kingdom business. There's all different kinds of ways that we describe the support. But this tonight is supporting inclusive businesses. And so the two authors that we have on tonight specifically are in the realm of progressive spirituality, seeing a bigger and better vision and version of God. And so it is our duty to really support these efforts. And I think you'll be blessed by this. I think you'll be blessed by the candid nature of the stories that Brother Henry is going to share. And so we encourage you tonight to certainly patronize this amazing work. Brother Henry, as always, you are an amazing soul. Are there any questions, Brandon, we want to field real quick? Okay, Brother Henry, Mike Williams says, do all relationships lead to a dead end?
I don't think so. I think sometimes relationships lead you more to a lesson learned that maybe you've been through in the past. I don't think it always leads to a dead end.
I love that. Sometimes think about being on an expressway. If you get off of one interstate, you sometimes navigate through a tunnel. Usually it's a little dark in the tunnel. You can't see as well. You come out onto, so it's not a dead end. Maybe it's a segue into something new. Who knows? Any other questions, Brandon?
One more.
All right, Jared Johnson, how can you see the dead ends sooner? Whoo, how can you predict the dead ends, Brother Henry?
I personally think that maybe you can, but sometimes people don't know till the very end. You know, like you could be in a relationship with someone, be married to someone, and then you start to see some toxic behavior, and you look back, you're like, hold on, this ain't the person I married 10 years ago. And not that you throw them away or anything, but I think it's more of a progression thing. Like the old saying says, when you see something, say something. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I don't feel like when you see it, we won't always be able to detect it. But I mean, if you do see something that you feel like is harmful to you or whatnot, you know, it depends on if you are in a safe space. Not all relationships, you are in a safe space to be a truth teller. And a truth teller just simply means confession, which means I tell the truth. Sometimes when people say, I want the truth, tell me the truth, sometimes we're afraid to do that, especially as men, because we're afraid of retaliation. Well, if I really tell you who I truly am, what if you leave? What if you, I mean, so I hope I answered that question. I mean, sometimes it's hard to predict, and sometimes predictions happen over time. And sometimes the way we feel about someone, or maybe our perception of someone, may not even be true at all.
Mm-hmm. So communication, everybody. If you think a sign is showing itself, as Brother Henry said, if you see something, say something. And maybe it comes in the form of a question. You know, have I done something? Do we need to sit down and talk? Are we missing lines of communication in some way? So there's little signs, self-awareness, being willing to be an active listener. I think all of us could probably do better with not formulating an answer, but really listening when somebody is sharing something with us. All right, Brother Henry, I'm gonna ask you to hang with us. We're gonna put you in the waiting room, but we'll bring you back on at the end with Reggie Rodgers, and we'll take some more questions and I'll come back to that. Thank you, Brother Henry, for joining us. All right, our next guest, happy Valentine's Day to everybody, by the way, is someone I met about a year ago or so, and just really immediately connected with his spirit, with his charisma, with his sense of strength. He is gospel royalty, comes from one of the very well-known families in the Philadelphia area. It was raised in church, has been with Bishop Pearson on his show talking about relationships. I mean, this guy is not just a relationship coach. He's a life coach, a guru toward inspiration and power and purpose and goals and vision. I'm always inspired every time I'm around him. Will you welcome to the show tonight, Reverend C. Reggie Rogers?
Bishop, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, man. I see you got the matching hat, the underdressed when I'm with.
Oh, no. I'm actually dressed down, with the hat on. I figured let me try to dress down a little bit. I didn't want to overdo it too much.
Well, I've been in your presence. Whoever's picking your wardrobe out, they're doing a good job. And if it's you, kudos to you. You always look sharp.
Well, I appreciate it. I take the compliment. It means a lot coming from you, my friend.
Well, give us a greeting and give us kind of an introduction into his new work is Awake and Ready to Date. As I told you, Reverend C. Reggie Rogers is really a guru when it comes to relationships in the context of inclusion or expanded consciousness. So just give us a greeting and then we'll jump into the book.
Absolutely. First of all, let me say I really enjoyed your first guest, Henry. I think he's awesome. I think his genuineness definitely resonates with me, and it radiates throughout the camera. I'm sure your audience that's watching tonight felt that same way. So he's awesome. So first of all, I just wanted to say thank you as well for allowing me to have this opportunity to share with this platform tonight about Awake and Ready to Date. I think Awake and Ready to Date really takes you to this place of understanding yourself personally. Oftentimes, when we wake up in the morning, our minds immediately recall who we were yesterday. And with that being said, it brings forward the thoughts, it brings forward what I'd like to say are emotional states to whom we have conditioned ourselves to become. So what's so important in this new thought movement is when we understand that wherever our energy flows, that's where our attention goes. And so when we understand that every past event, every painful moment, every regret creates what I call a pattern in the brain. So with that being said, the emotions are the language of the body. Thoughts are the language of the brain. So if emotions become the language of the body and thoughts become the language of the brain, people wake up tired because they take yesterday into today. So we wake up today with yesterday's thoughts, yesterday's emotions, and so we're bringing everything from the day before into the new day. Wow. And we wonder why we wake up tired. We wonder why we wake up mentally done already before the day has even started. And then to top it off, we add on top of as soon as we wake up, we get our phones. And so we're just adding on to all of the stuff that we've already taken from yesterday. Now we're adding more. And so we are we are drained. I was sharing with a friend of mine's. He had to go to he went to San Antonio, and I said, when you got there, you were probably wired, but when you came back home, you were probably tired. The reason he was wired when he got there is because he was 2 hours behind on our time, and so when he got there, his body was still on our time. But when he came back, he was tired because now his body had adjusted to that time.
Wow.
So we can either be wired, but most of the time we're tired.
Oh my goodness.
So I wanted us to understand when we talk about awake and ready to dating from an expanded conscious perspective, I'm asking you to now change your focus. Because focus is everything. Focus on your future. But don't let your history or your past bring you back down, because we can maximize or we can minimize. And most of the time we minimize because we're focusing on the past. Our attention is taking us to what happened yesterday, what happened the day before, what happened last year. And we take that same thing into relationships. I had a bad relationship. I don't know that I ever want to go into another relationship. Why? Because I had a bad relationship. That's focusing on what was in the past. So expanded consciousness now says to you, I need you to be intentional in your thinking. I need you to be intentional in your thought process. I need you to be intentional on what you're thinking about, because whatever you think about is what you're going to bring about. Right? And so I want you to hit the target by understanding that, I really can't predict my future, but I can certainly create it. And how do I create it? I create it by what I think in my mind. Because again, my thoughts is the language of the brain. And emotions become the language of the body. So if I need to line all of this up, Bishop, I have to understand. And when I came to you, one of the themes that I kept trying to drive home when we did Inclusion 2024 is our thought style determines our lifestyle, but our thought style also has the ability to determine our mate style. So what are you thinking about? What are you going to bring about?
Yeah.
That's so important.
Yeah.
Wow. So I want to drive people to that understanding of what it means to be awake and ready to date.
So if you're listening tonight or you're viewing tonight, can you sense the disparate nature of kind of an old school idea of dating, and then what it means to date from an expanded consciousness perspective? Reverend Reggie Rodgers, I was kind of writing some things down as you were talking, Reverend, really gave us a beautiful critique of time. That what is time's presence in our relationships, and does it belong there, or can we inhabit the present moment? In essence, let's ask it more sensically. Is time working out for you? How's that working for you?
That's a Dr. Phil question. How's that working for you?
How's that working for you? Like time has been kicking my butt. I woke up this morning with my knee hurting, my lower back hurting. Time and me do not get along so well. So think about if time is having this effect on our bodies at times, what is time? How is it affecting your relationship if you're not living in the present moment? I heard Eckhart Tolle compare being in the present moment kind of to like watching ducks. If you've ever watched a group of ducks in a pond or in a lake, they swim together, and then one of them they fight and they peck at each other, and they don't hold it against each other. They just keep on swimming together. They just literally like water off a duck's back. They are kind of always inhabiting the present moment. That doesn't mean, that's in no way saying that we spiritually bypass our emotional trauma. The traumas are real, but living in the present moment in the awareness is expanded consciousness. That was just, that was so good. I was trying to write the whole time. The emotional effect that it has onto our bodies, the language of the brain. The thoughts are the language of the brain. That's some good teaching there, Reverend. All right, so tell me, let me ask you this question. What separates your content when it comes from dating as in juxtaposition with other dating contents? What makes this peculiar?
I think that's a great question. I think that, the standard role when it comes to people writing and the format that we typically read when it comes to a dating format is boy meets girl. What are the qualities that the boy needs in order for the girl, in order for them to create some type of synergy? Well, I'm not putting in here that you're going to meet boy or girl. I want you to meet yourself.
Wow.
Because when you meet you, then you have to develop the relationship with you. And that relationship that you have with you has to be at a point where you create the harmony between you and source, and the source begins to flow out of you. That's your source energy. And then once you can create that harmony and you have a great relationship with yourself, then you begin to create in your mind, it's called what I call dating and creating, but you're dating you to create what you desire and what you deserve.
Wow. Dating you. Man, I'm trying to write this stuff down because if I preach a Valentine's Day sermon, I'm going to tell everybody, Reverend, that the Holy Spirit gave me this information. I was in prayer and the Holy Spirit gave me all this information. So let me ask you this question. This isn't something that I plan to ask you, but I'd like for you to speak to this.
Okay.
I've done probably, I don't know that I've done 500 weddings in my ministry, but probably close. I've done a lot of weddings. And one of the things that you hear a lot at weddings is that two become one flesh. And I'm not necessarily diametrically opposed to that. What I do think can be a little bit harmful is to think that two broken people are going to make one whole person. And so in essence, I haven't dated me. I don't know who I am. I haven't dealt with my trauma. I haven't gotten to know me from a emotional, spiritual, authentic level. But I'm going to take all this baggage and brokenness into this marriage, and somehow my brokenness and my spouses or partners or their brokenness, we're just going to come together and it's going to be so functional. And what we find is that two dysfunctional people create more dysfunction, not harmony. What would your advice be toward that?
Yeah, that's a malfunction. And I think what creates that malfunction is going into the relationship with that understanding that, we've been taught, we've been reared with that thinking. But more than anything else, you have to be one with you. And, when you create that oneness with you, if we were to take this to church, Bishop, we grew up with the thought of being tripartite. Or we would say it was tripartite, or what was the other one we would use? Trichotomous. Tripartite or trichotomous. Okay. And so, we used to break that down like this. Trichotomous or tripartite was body, soul, and spirit. Mm-hmm. What that meant, there were 3 rooms in one house. And we used to break it down that when the body was in right relationship with God, it made us healthy. When the spirit was in right relationship with God, it made us holy. But when the body, soul, spirit, when the soul was in right relationship with God, it made us happy, right? So as we broke that down, what we were saying is there had to be a harmony. There had to be a unity. There had to be a unification. And when that unification was there, it created that harmonious spirit. So a house divided against itself can't stand. So where there was division, it equaled no vision.
Wow.
Because we were divided, so therefore a double-minded person became unstable in all of their ways because there was no vision because of the division, right? Yeah. So now, if you're taking that into a relationship, How can that relationship go? It's going to have a dead end like Brother Harris was talking about. Why? Because where there is no vision, what happens? According to the scripture, the people perish. And that's why we see a lot of relationships that are perishing, because there's no vision, because they both did not come with a harmonious spirit and that oneness, because they haven't figured out that oneness starts within themselves, tapping into what's in you to begin to allow that to exude out of you.
So I have to stop here, and especially as a son of Carlton Pearson, I have to just lay out what Rev just gave to us, because that was some Carlton Pearson anointed alliteration right there. He said, healthy, happy, holy, and then you'll be in harmony. that is Carlton Pearson right there, coming through this line. What an amazing teaching you just gave to us. Would you let me ask, just from personal experience, Reverend? I do some premarital counseling with couples before I marry them. Occasionally, I will agree to perform a wedding if I don't get a chance to do, but I don't like to do it. I like to ask a couple some difficult questions first. I want to ask them about their family backgrounds, their political affiliations, their religious persuasions, the way they handle money, the way they handle the raising of a child. All these are kind of, I think, important questions to ask before you, because a lot of people can have a physical attraction and chemistry with someone, but once they get into the daily living, they realize, oh my goodness, we don't see eye to eye. It doesn't mean that that's necessarily deal breakers. Are there some questions you would ask before you agreed to marry a couple, and what would those be? I didn't plan to ask you this, but just asking off the cuff.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think you use the word chemistry. I think chemistry is used very loosely, because chemistry, you can have chemistry with multiple people. I think one of the things that you want to look for, though, more than chemistry, is connection. You can walk away from it. You hear a lot of, oh my God, we had so much chemistry, but you don't hear them say a lot of times, oh my God, we were so connected.
Wow.
And so you want to figure out what are the commonalities, and what do those commonalities look like? What are the commonalities? How do we create a common union based off of our commonalities? I think once you can start to dissect that puzzle, it will begin to ask and answer those questions that you just asked, so that they can really determine and decipher if this is going to be a fit based off of the commonalities and the connection.
Look at this. Are you guys sensing the mastery of this talk right now? This is master's level stuff here. Chemistry, connection, common union. I mean, this is not a novice conversation here. And so, if you're tuning in tonight, if you have any questions for Reverend C. Reggie Rogers, he certainly would be glad to try to approach those questions. And there's a symbol of his book there, or the graphics of his book. It's a fantastic looking book. So proud of the work that you've done, Reverend. We need your voice. We need these voices in expanding consciousness and inclusion. He did a talk for us. Reverend Rogers did a talk for us at our Inclusion 2024 conference. And I mean, there were people from every type of relationship there. There were people who were divorced. There were people who were wanting to date. There were those there of same gender loving relationships. We had several trans individuals who were with us. His application was so beautifully both broad and specialized that everyone in the room felt like they received something from it. And so, just an excellent. If you have a ministry, if you have a church, and you'd like to have Reverend C. Reggie Rogers come in and do a weekend talk with your couples or with your singles, I would highly recommend you to get in touch with him. And so talk to us about the inspiration to writing the book, and then how you want us to help buy it.
Okay, awesome. The inspiration was, Bishop Carlton Pearson. He was that expanded consciousness, that just kept staying with me, expanded consciousness. And then I looked at it and I realized that no one was taking expanded consciousness into the relationship aspect. I was already out there. So my first book actually came out in 2001. So this is actually my fourth book. It's just that I feel like I've grown into the expanded consciousness based off of the evolution of Reggie Rogers, how I evolved and how I was always in that state of becoming. But in that state of becoming, being able to link with Bishop Carlton Pearson actually exposed me into understanding that there was so much more than what I was receiving. So my inspirations was understanding the psychoses of the mind, getting into the mind, understanding that aspect of mind consciousness, being mindful, mindfulness, and that played a major role for me with being able to write and author a book about dating and relationships as it relates to expanded consciousness.
Well, we need your voice. We welcome your voice. We honor your voice. This type of wisdom doesn't just come overnight. This is a process of study. This is the fourth book that Reverend C. Reggie Rogers has written. I've written multiple books, and I can tell you this, with every book that I write, there's a new revelation and revealing of myself in the writing. And so we love that truth is not a destination. Truth and authenticity are journeys to the self and to the soul. We give thanks tonight for Bishop Carlton Pearson for inspiring this type of work. With every invention, it comes from, in some ways, necessity. Necessity is the mother of invention. And certainly we don't perceive wisdom as an invention necessarily, but it does come out of the need in expanded consciousness circles to have some sort of framework of how do we date? How do we open ourselves? How do we get to know ourselves? How do we date ourselves first? That could not be more new thought right there. Dating the self, and then learning how you can relate with someone that you bring into a relationship. All right, I'm going to give you one last word, Reverend, and then we'll see if we have any questions, and we'll bring Brother Henry back on.
I think my last word would probably be know thyself, be true to thyself, and then love thyself. Mm-hmm. Knowing thyself, it is the truth that you know that has the ability to get you that freedom that you desire and deserve. So know thyself, be true to thyself. When truth gets down on the inside, it begins to work from the inside internally, and then it shows externally. Because what happens is there's something that is now planted inside of you, and it'll spring forth because now your truth becomes your reality. What your reality is, that becomes your perception of what you feel is your truth. So now as you perceive what it is to be your truth, you begin to expand into that. That's why it's important to know thyself. That's why it's important to be true to thyself. But then you have to love yourself, because now when you wrap yourself around, when you wrap your arms around yourself, you embrace yourself, you begin to love yourself. Then with that being said, you won't allow any and everything to come into your energetic space. Your frequency has now gone up to a higher level. Your frequency has now changed. For example, if you like country music, you have changed the station so where you can get country music. Every station doesn't play country music, but you've changed the station so that you can get country music because you have now changed your frequency. You have changed where you used to be to where you want to be. And that's loving yourself, because now you're embracing yourself. You've wrapped your arms around yourself, and you are particular about who you allow into your energetic space.
Oof. Preach, preacher. Yes, taking notes. Know thyself. Be true to that you know of yourself, and then love yourself. How can we love or give love that we don't possess? You can't love neighbor as self, or spouse or partner as self, if you don't have self-love. That's not something that's taught traditionally in churches, because we're taught to God first, others second, me last. But it's very difficult. Well, why doesn't it work? most of the major world religions have that same tenet. Why isn't it working? Because we have to learn to love the self. Jesus gave us a command. He said, you can take all the law and prophets, hang them on these two ideas. If you'll just love God, all your heart, soul, strength, mind, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. Then Jesus had to come back and clarify it. He had to write a second book, Reverend Rogers. He said, look, I know I told you to love others as you love yourself. I didn't realize you guys don't love yourselves. So a new commandment I give, love your neighbor as I have loved you. So learn to love the love that you've sensed from me, since you don't love yourselves. But it's really just a critique on the religious thought that makes us feel like we are unlovable, we are unworthy, we are wretched, we are fallen, we are sinful, abomination, shameful, separate, segregated from God, other than. And so in that way, the expanded consciousness awareness in this dating context is to love the self, to know the self, be true to this. As Chris Rock would say, don't take your representative to your dates. Be authentic. You want to, right. You can trick somebody into dating you, but they're going to find out eventually that's not really who you are. And so love yourself enough to be authentic with yourself and then with your dating relationships. All right. Do we have any questions, Brandon? All right, Reverend Kat Bell says, what methods or steps do you recommend to be truly connected to self, not just acting as if you are? I love that. The difference between self-care to self-love is a big gap in our society.
Well, Kat, you know what I'm going to do? I do have a whole chapter in this book that will answer that question. So why don't you get this book? It will certainly answer that question. I have a chapter that will zero in right there, and I'll share with you momentarily how to get this book. Okay.
Love that. That's wise, Reverend. Very, very wise. Yeah. Great question, Kat. How do we really love the self, be true to the self without just kind of acting like you're doing it? Yeah, that's the difference in authenticity.
I think you ask yourself the question too. What do you want from yourself?
Yeah.
And then if you're not receiving what you want for yourself, then you have to make some changes in regards to yourself.
Yeah.
And then the more changes you make as it relates to yourself, because again, we wake up and we go right back into who we were yesterday, and yesterday is gone. So we have to be in this present moment. And so we have to embrace it like it is a present, because it's the present moment.
And if we don't, at times, Reverend, you know that no matter how many relationships we have, we can tend to seem to attract the same person with just a different name.
That's right. That's right.
President, put up, if you have Ruben's comment one more time. I think Ruben just says, again, it's always back to you, always coming back to the self, dating, as we talked about tonight, Reverend, dating yourself first before you learn to date someone else. That's good. All right. So any other questions?
Yes.
All right. Let's take another. All right, Reverend, it says, do you have any opinions about online dating?
Yeah, I think, it's a sign of the time, is where we are. So online dating can actually be a friend or it can be a foe. It becomes a friend when you have done the work on you. And when you have done all the work on you, you know what you want. You know what you want them to look like, smell like, feel like, walk like, because you have sat down, you have taken notes, you understand what your deal breakers are, what your deal makers are, and what your absolute non-negotiables are, because you've taken the time to do the work, because now you have a target. If you don't have a target, you can't hit it. You're just going to be aimlessly. That's when it becomes a foe. But it can become a friend when you have done the work on yourself.
I love that. When I heard you giving that answer, Reverend, I heard the two words that came to my mind were the difference or disparities between being picky and being purposeful, or maybe even being picky and being peculiar. And so just because you're purposeful or intentional about the type of individual you want to date does not necessarily mean you're being picky. That is a way that you love yourself. Why would you invest your heart and your time into something that you know is probably not a vibrational match for you? So don't let people tell you that you're being too picky. You're not being picky, you're being purposeful. You're a
And one of
peculiar
the,
individual. Yeah.
and one of the trends they say for 2025, a dating trend for 2025 is that people are now becoming aware. I guess they're starting to become awake and aware. And what they say is they're now moving towards intentional dating. They're dating with intent now. They're being more intentional because now they're going into the situation knowing what they want, knowing what they desire, knowing what they deserve because they've done the work.
Wow. My daughter, Reverend, will be 26 March 1st. My son's 24, so they're both adults, at least young adults. And I can even tell in their lives that when they were in high school, they just kind of dated a person that they might have been physically attracted to, or that was in a certain social setting or something. But I can tell now in their adult life that they're thinking, well, I do have some chemistry with this person, but I might not have connection. And I can tell that they're starting to shift into intentionally dating something that they think what might be a vibrational match for them. All right, any more questions, Brendan? All right, we're going to bring Brother Henry Harris back in, and then we've got about 15 minutes or so to share some conversation. And so continue. Welcome back to the show, Brother Henry. I don't know if you sense the love, but Reverend C. Reggie Rogers was applauding your talk earlier.
Well, I enjoyed his talk as well, and looking forward to ordering his book. I would like to interview him on my show sometime.
Let's make it happen, Henry. I'm here for you.
I'll tell you this, Brother Henry Harris has his platform is very vast. He has worked very tirelessly for a decade or more creating this platform, and so it certainly will be a blessing. I'd love for you to do the show, Reverend, and expose your book to more critical mass and a very diverse audience as well that Brother Henry Harris brings to the table. And so look at this. We making some inclusion, expanded consciousness connections tonight. Kingdom business. Come on, yeah. All right, so Brother Harris, did you have any questions? I wonder if you guys had any questions for each other about either your talk, the books that you guys have written, your process with dating, with relationships ending. Let's see, Brother Harris. I'll let you go first. Do you have any specific question for Reverend Rogers tonight?
Well, I was really taken away by his book, and the thing that stood out to me was the cover and the title of the book. I think it says "Awake." It's hard to read from here. Awake and ready to date. Yeah, there you go. Awake and ready to date. And I was thinking about the opposite of awake. It means sleep. And I was wanting to know, like in the context of the book, like what he could say in regards to that. Like, because in my mind, I'm thinking like, if you are asleep, like you're awakening to something. But what causes people to maybe like that maybe still sleeping in the form of dating, if that makes sense? Like, where does that awareness and awakening, when does that really happen?
The awakening aspect?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Is that your question?
Yes, sir.
I think that as we live, we're what we call in the state of always evolving and becoming. And I think that as we evolve and become, it's what we determine that we want to evolve into and what we want to become. You can remain in your past, but life is still going. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is you get stuck. Everything is going, but you're stuck. What made you stuck is because you've probably created a routine and now you got stuck in your rut of your routine. Mm-hmm. So what you have to do is you have to change your regimen, change your routine, so that you can get, it's the old saying, if you want to continue to get what you've always got, you're going to continue to do what you've always done. Right. But if you want to get something that you have never gotten, then you have to be willing to do something that you have never done. Mm-hmm. So therefore, you change that routine. That's when you wake up out of that sleep and say, now it's time to go and be and do and have and become something that I haven't been before, do something I haven't done before, have something that I haven't gotten before. And so now you've evolved and you've become.
I want to throw something. Thank you for that question and for that response, Reverend. One thing that I want to add here, especially if you're on Bishop Carlton Pearson's platform tonight, who you date is very, very important to your spiritual journey. The reason I say that is because sometimes in the evangelical Christian, and that includes apostolic, prophetic, holiness, Church of God in Christ, there are a lot of similarities in some of those denominations. However, when you come into expanded consciousness, you may not be able to date in the same or fish from the same ponds that you once fished in. What am I saying? So there are some members of my spiritual community, of course, that I would not name, who have married people that go to other more traditional churches. They come in on Sunday morning, they're told about sin, going to hell, one way to God. The Bible is the inerrant, infallible word of God. There's no other way to connect. And so they have a chemistry with someone in a different pond, but they don't have a long-lasting connection. They end up going to separate churches, which it's not the end of all things, but even living in the same space with someone who is still kind of in that traditional way of thinking, or what we think is traditional, which I don't think was the original tradition. And then you're going to, Michael Beckwith's church, or to a spiritual living center, or to a Unitarian church, or to Spirit of True Sanctuary. And you're thinking, why did I marry this person? We have nothing in common spiritually. And so I would encourage you tonight, if you're listening and you're looking to date someone, especially if you're into inclusion or expanded consciousness, you probably don't want to find your spouse at the Baptist church. You don't want to go. You don't want to go to the Southern Baptist Convention. You don't want to go to the Promise Keepers Convention. That's not where you're going to find your spouse. You need to go to some places and some areas where you have something in common. Would you guys have any response to that?
I would just say I agree 100%. I think that, though, when you have raised your frequency to a certain level, as you said, Bishop, you really become particular now as it relates to who you're going to allow in your energetic space. And so there are some. So in one of my series that I did that came out, it was called Dating and Creating. In the first phase, it was called the meet and greet, because in that meet and greet period, I gave you some questions to ask just to see if we were vibing, because there's this I use when the conversations wrong, or should I say, how do I put it in there? I think I put it in there. I said when the energy is wrong, my conversation's not long, right?
I like that, yeah.
Because you realize we're not creating any synergy.
Right.
It's two energies coming together. You're bringing two energies together. The ultimate goal is when you bring two energies together, because we're energy, and you want to bring two energies together to create synergy. And so what is synergy? A synergy to me is two people that are uniquely in sync. But when you don't have that, then your energy is off, so there's no flow.
I love that.
When there's no flow, what does that mean, Bishop? This is a little raw, I'm gonna tell you, but
I like it.
When there's no flow, that means something is backing up the flow. That means there's a constipation.
Yep.
Somebody's constipated. It's a constipation that's blocking the flow. So therefore, it's not a connect.
I love that. You want to add anything to that, Brother Henry?
Well, I am strict Pentecostal. The Bible says don't be unequally yoked with the unbeliever. So my fiance, she's gonna have to believe the way I believe or hit the door.
Yeah, you can't mix night with day, huh?
Yeah, I warned you about Henry Harris. He's always going to bring that.
That's all I want. I just want to add a little humor to it. He expounded great. There's nothing else I need to add to that. I just want to add a little humor to it.
Let me tell you guys a quick story, and I want to ask you guys this question. So, a couple of days ago, my wife Brandy is blessed to work from home, usually 4 days of work, 4 days a week. Sometimes she has to go for days at a time out of town and do things. But I love it that she works from home. I get to see her some, we get to have breakfast together occasionally. But I walked in the other day and she was in the midst of a work day and she was crying. I could tell she was emotional. And there was just a lot impacting from what's happening in the social and political climate right now. And especially as inclusionists, hearing some of the jargon, it can be hurtful, especially when your purpose in life is to bring people of diversity together and to celebrate those diversities and to make people feel safe. And then the people that you love no longer feel safe in spaces. I could tell it was heavy on her. I can't imagine if I had a diametrically opposed political affiliate or partial connection to another political agenda than my wife. How would I comfort her? How would I feel that moment with her? And I'm not saying that two people that have to come together who believe exactly the same politically. It's almost never going to happen. But there need to be I think there need to be some similarities. Do you guys think that someone that are on different spectrums or different extremities of the political agenda, can they make a marriage work long term or even a dating relationship?
I mean, I think so. I mean, as long as they're being cordial and respectful towards each other. Yeah. But also the other side of it too, I can see where it could be a little tension there as well, depending on what side the person is on.
Mm-hmm. What do you think? What do you think it would take, Brother Henry, to be, if you do have different political persuasions? What's maybe a way that you can make that relationship work? You talked about maybe listening or being sensitive. How would you approach that?
I would think being sympathetic, but not only sympathetic, but also tapping into how they feel, which I feel leans more on the side of being empathetic. A lot of people are empaths. They can actually feel what someone is feeling. So I may not lean onto a particular side, but sometimes it's good to say, okay, I don't hold to these political beliefs, but let me just tap into your world for a second just to see how you feel about it. And not to get them to change my mind, but at least they'll feel like, okay, this person's starting to resonate with me. And then maybe we can find some common ground, even in our slight disagreement.
They say, Brother Henry, in theological circles where I'm studying right now, they call that communal theology. So in essence, the best theology is when you're having it in community with people who kind of bring a different voice. And it doesn't mean that you all, as Bishop Pearson said, would tell us that harmony doesn't mean we sound alike. It just means we sound together. And so in that way, it requires empathy, listening, allowing yourself to try to feel, understand. And maybe that's the bridge that helps us to architect inclusion is, as Jesus said, I'm not coming to your mountain. I'm not dragging you to my temple, but maybe there's a middle space where we can meet and talk. I like that answer. Thanks, Brother Henry. Did you want to add anything, Reverend Rogers?
Yeah, I just think what you said is that middle space. I think, one of the classes that I took when I took classes on biblical counseling and relationships is they talked about a conference table, learning where that conference table becomes in your home. And so when there is a discussion and the discussion has gone awry, and two people are coming from two different directions, how do we diffuse that? Well, we look at each other, we say conference table. So now that means we have to go to that conference table and we have to communicate. And so now that has a lot to do with our communication styles. How do we communicate? We want to, as you said, Bishop, we want to find that common union. Once we determine what that common union is, then we walk away saying, okay, we may not agree, but we can agree to disagree. Yeah. But that doesn't mean I'm right, you're wrong. Doesn't mean you're right and I'm wrong. Yeah. We'll just agree to disagree, but we'll still walk away here still being tight knit to one another.
I love that. Beautiful, beautiful. Maybe there's a fresh wind that is trying to blow into our spaces that we can do some bridge work. We had on the show earlier, Reverend Jay Baker, who's the son of Jim and Tammy Faye Baker. I was a good personal friend. He was on the show earlier, but he's doing this type of work. He's been inclusive in his theology for many years, but he's trying to engage those of different entry points and seeing how they can argue in a respectful way and learn to at least acknowledge each other's theological perspectives. And so that's not easy work. That takes patience, and it certainly takes a bit of humanity to come into those spaces. All right, is there any more comments, Brandon, we want to recognize from our chat? Okay, well, thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. I want to put up, if you can, Brandon, put up one more time. I want to put up Brother Henry Harris's book, Dead End, and let everybody get a look at that. If you're just joining us, would highly recommend this book. It's an authentic work from lived experience, gained wisdom. It is certainly an open book, sharing from the pains of Brother Henry Harris's own life. How do you start again? What happens after a dead end sign? Those are the ways that you can order the book there. Would love for all of our inclusive community to patronize this incredible work. Thank you once again, Brother Henry, for this work. And then let's show one more time. See Reggie Rogers' work, Awake and Ready to Date, dating from an expanded consciousness perspective. What does that mean? How do we bring the mind, the metaphysical aspects of our spiritual practice into the dating relationship? We can go into a sangha, into a meditation center, and be very spiritual, and then walk out and date the old way. If we are living in spiritual practice and we want our lives to be in harmony and not double-minded, that creates instability, how do we go to our communities of worship in an evolved space, and then take that same evolution into our dating space? I just love the works that you guys have done. Hope everybody gets a copy. Yep, Brady.
Let's make sure that Reggie Rogers tells everyone how to purchase. I did put links in the chat earlier.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Tell us exactly how to purchase this. See Reggie Rogers.
Yes, if you just Google Awake and Ready to Date, just spell it out, Awake and Ready to Date. It's on all the major platforms. It's on Barnes & Noble. It's on Amazon. I mean, all the major platforms. It'll just pop right up. Just Google Awake and Ready to Date.
Well, you have gotten a chance tonight to meet my two brothers from other mothers, but connected in spirit and in this architecture together. Their voices, their vision, their vitality is so needed. The wisdom that they bring to inclusion, to expanded consciousness, and dating and navigating life. Do me a favor, go right now and purchase these books. We really encourage you to do that. We want to say thank you once again, Brother Henry Harris, for having us on, or for being on the show. Thank you, Reverend C. Reggie Rogers. I hope you guys can coordinate with each other and have Reverend C. Reggie Rogers on your show, Brother Henry, to give, I think, your audience a chance to be exposed to his voice as well. You guys, I'll give you the last word. Say goodnight to us, Brother Henry Harris, and then Reggie Rogers, give us your last word.
Dr. Paulk, I want to thank you for being such an amazing friend, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my book on your program tonight.
You're so welcome.
Yeah, likewise, Bishop. I just want to say, man, I love you, man. Your spirit is so infectious. Both you and your wife, your church is just an infectious spirit there. You can tell what the leader operates from, because when you go into your parking lot, you feel it. So Love you, man. I'm just honored to be in your presence, to be with you, and to be able to say, listen, you're my friend.
My peoples, y'all. Did you feel the love right there? Look at my peoples. These are my peoples. Listen, your vibe attracts your tribe. Well, thanks once again, guys, for being here. We'll say goodnight to our authors tonight. Thank you for the wisdom that you shared tonight. I did want to give you guys a chance to give toward the Carlton Pearson Legacy Foundation. You can give. There's ways to donate. You can give through Stripe, through PayPal. So the information will be there for you. I think Valentine's Day is always the 14th. Sometimes people kind of give toward toward purpose or toward specific goals. If everyone on tonight would just kind of set an intention to give $14, that would be a great way to start the year off. So let's give $14 tonight to the Carlton D. Pearson Legacy Foundation. This benefits the ongoing legacy of Bishop Pearson. If you're in the Atlanta area and you're interested in Carlton Pearson's legacy, come by Spirit and True Sanctuary. We have an entire exhibit, his earliest tapes, books, pictures of him as a child, his early preaching days, we've got his boots that he wore at Azusa, his tambourine he played at Azusa. We've got his suits, his clerical collars, his ties, his shirts, his mints, his car keys, his cell phone. We've got all that stuff.
We should do a show either from there soon.
We really should.
Or we'll put something together. I'll work with Mike on that to really show everyone on this platform what you put together.
You know what we could do? We could do a walkthrough, and maybe Mike could help us with this too. And we could just explain each piece and what that meant. His journey to Ghana, to the door of no return. I mean, there's some really emotional things. The original manuscript of the Gospel of Inclusion is in there that was called God Is Not a Christian before it was even edited. And so there's some really historic pieces in the Carlton Pearson exhibit. But that's a great idea, Brandon. We really should do that.
Yeah, we should. And someone's asking, we don't take Cash App any longer, just so that we can track this.
And the reason, tell them why we don't do Cash App anymore.
Well, there's not a way to track it for your tax write-off.
Yeah. If you gave toward the Carlton Pearson Legacy Foundation in 2024, you might have already received a contribution letter by now. So that you can take that letter and you can write that off on your taxes. And so we want to be able to be good stewards over finances. And so when you give, we want to document it and then send you back at the end of the year a contribution letter so that you can be able to have that as a tax write-off. We love you guys. We look forward to seeing you. Remember, tomorrow night, I will not be teaching the Gospel of Inclusion tomorrow night. I'm taking the night off. And Brandy and I are going to see the Alvin Ailey Dance Company. They're at the Fox Theater in Atlanta. Fantastic music, fantastic creative motion, movement, ballet, modern, all that. I'm certainly not as versed on all of it, but Brandy danced, was a classically trained dancer for probably 20 years or so. And so we're going to enjoy seeing Alvin Ailey and the group tomorrow night, but we'll be back the following Wednesday. We certainly would love for you guys to join us on Inclusion 101. We do a deep dive into what inclusion really means. Thanks for joining us tonight. Brother Henry Harris, Dead End, and Reverend C. Reggie Rogers, Awake and Ready Today, just fantastic works. When you get a chance, go out and buy their books. Let's support our inclusive, expanded consciousness authors and brothers in this movement. Until we meet again, happy Valentine's Day. We'll see you soon.
I am connected to a love that never runs out. I am connected to a source that never runs out. I am connected to a love that never runs out. I am connected to a source that never runs out.